welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Friday. So hopefully out of all my videos I've ever made, this one will save you the most money because there are some baits, and I'm going to go into why, that you don't need more than one, maybe 2 or 3 colors, but a lot of the times, like 95%, you will need one color. So I'm going to go into why that is the way it is, and I'm going to give you a few examples. So the first one would be any bait that you know the bass aren't feeling it. It's strictly a sight bait, like a swim bait or a jerkbait. So when I think of jerkbait fishing, this is my favorite color. I'm not sure what it's called. It's kind of got a purplish translucent with chartreuse on the bottom. You know, this bait is slashing through the water. I think they get a little glimpse of that chartreuse. Typically on lakes that I catch them really well on a jerkbait, there's spotted bass, sometimes smallmouth. So that chartreuse, but they're not getting a good look at the chartreuse. It's kind of a glance here and there. So I think it is not a dirty water bait by any means. This is strictly a clear water bait. You want lots of visibility when you're throwing this. And it's typically going to be on steeper banks because in clearer water, fish are going to suspend more, and a jerkbait is the way to catch them. But if I was to go back and look through my jerkbait box, most of the jerkbaits I don't throw. You know, there are some other situations with jerkbaits, like schooling fish, where if you're throwing in any water clarity, it could be tannic water, it could be really dark water, you might want something like white or like a clown color, but you're basically throwing it within a couple feet of the fish's face. So color, you know, that's a completely different situation. You also may be catching fish that are about to spawn or just got done spawning, but they're around beds. Again, you're putting it right in front of their face. So color, probably not the biggest deal. But when you're not, and you're just normally fishing a jerkbait, I think you can do all your jerkbait fishing with this color. And if they're not biting this color, there's a good chance that you're not fishing in the right area of the lake or you're using the wrong bait. And that's it. And the same thing goes for swim bait. So I fish a swim bait in all depth ranges. I really like this bait shallow. Next couple months is a great time to throw it relatively shallow, you know, 8 to 2 feet of water. But this is like the only color I ever throw, and every color that I buy from Bass Tricks, they're all some type of rendition. That's an IU. This is blueback herring, but really there's not hardly any difference. And I know if they're not biting this color, it's probably not a good day to be throwing a swim bait. Any of these baits where you have a real specific water clarity, condition, clouds, wind, whatever it is you need, if they're not biting that one color, there's probably not another color that they are biting. It's probably time to just go to a different bait. So there are baits where they will bite a bunch of different colors, and there's some colors that work really good on some lakes, and there's some colors that don't work at all on those lakes. And lipless crankbaits, you know, I really like my golds, you know, those lighter color golds. Like, I'm just gonna grab this and just pull one out. You know, your lighter golds, your darker golds, your chromes. But like the translucents for the lipless, I've never really caught them on the translucent ones. It's either some type of shiny color or some type of white, blue, purple mixed in with white. And the more natural or dirty or whatever, you know, your sexy shads and your royal shads are going to be, you know, pretty good colors on the cloudy days. And if you're fishing around spring, your reds are good anywhere in the country. But the funny thing, and the reason I bring that up, is when you get to squarebills, squarebills are completely different colors than that. Other than, you know, your reds, your chartreuses are typically your best color in squarebills. And, you know, most of the time the fish are barely seeing the squarebill when you're fishing it in dirty water. It's more of a feel thing. So for squarebills, I do think you need 5 or 6 colors, because a lot of times they aren't just seeing it, they're feeling it. So when I'm in real clear water and I know the fish are seeing it, I really like your ghost minnows, any type of your translucent colors, you know, your chartreuse shad, which is, it's white, but it's more of a translucent white. And then when you get in a little bit dirtier water than that, and you do think that the fish are feeding on shad, you know, your whites with your greens or your blue backs, the dirtier water we go, we're going to go to the extreme is your chartreuse. And then if it's springtime and there's some color in the water, you know, you have your reds and you have your oranges. So I feel like to cover all bases there, what is that? That's 6 colors. That is completely different than a hybrid hunter or a swank, where this is another one where I feel like you could get away with just using one color. You know, I have a whole box of them. I thought this bait was a lot like a chatterbait, so I started going into colors that I catch them on with a chatterbait, like your bright yellows, you know, your bright oranges, and I bought a bunch of them and I just don't catch them. You know, your green pumpkins, your green pumpkin oranges, great colors on chatterbaits. Clearly, as you can see, these have never been touched by a bass. So these colors are not good in my opinion. They're kind of a gimmick there. So the colors I think you do need, because I will say this, a hybrid hunter or a swank is a sight bait. As much noise as it makes, I just don't think the vibration in dirtier water. I think it is a more clear day, clear water type bait. At least enough visibility where they can see it, and then the correct conditions, not a whole lot of wind, and they can really, really see the bait. You know, I think they can definitely hear it, and I think sound is good or bad depending on what your preference is in different situations, but I don't think sound is really ever the complete driving force to get bites. It's lateral line, how they feel your bait, and then how they see your bait. And for whatever reason, still playing with the swank and the hybrid hunter, but this is a sight bait, like a jerk bait and a swim bait. And I really think if you had some type of chrome, some type of translucent, and the only outlier in that one is I did catch some on the red this year. So whatever opinion you want to give on that, if there is something red swimming around, it's not just the crayfish, maybe there are drum in the water, or there's just something special about the color red in spring that they see it, they got to eat it, whatever. But red is one that I did catch quite a few on, but I still don't necessarily think that those fish feel that bait and you need a bunch of colors. You know, they are getting a really good look at it before they eat it, like the swim bait and like the jerk bait. So before you buy a bunch of different baits like I have, sometimes you just need one, and then you can just buy a bunch of that one color like I have in these Bass Trick swim baits, just a bunch of IUs. And when they're not biting that, it's probably not a swim bait bite that day. So try that, guys. Hopefully that saves you some money. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.